The WandaVision series on Disney Plus introduced millions of fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe to a white version of the Vision. But did you know that this is actually one of his most iconic looks of all time? So what's the deal? Well, let me tell you. When fighting a villain named Annihilus, Vision attempted to phase through an energy field, but this messed with his systems hardcore, and he was bricked faster than a modded Nintendo console. Although Vision was later repaired, the experience messed with a special crystal inside of his head, and also he was being heavily influenced by an evil space computer, because comics. After taking over the Avengers Mansion Smart House style, he set his sights on the rest of the world by taking over every single computer on Earth. And since this story took place in 1985, that means it was like 20 computers tops. Anyway, the Avengers were able to stop Vision, and in a moment of clarity, he removed that tainted crystal from his head, and now he's A-OK. A few years passed, and Vision joined up with the newly formed West Coast Avengers. But even with his immense computer wisdom, he couldn't see that something was happening behind the scenes. Fearing that Vision could hijack every computer on the planet for a second time, the world's governments came together and hatched a plan. I'm talking CIA, MI7, KGB, the Deusium Bureau, the Canadian Secret Service, and so much more. It's really sweet that everyone could come together to tackle a common enemy, but it's a shame that this had no meaningful impact on the world at large for the sake of comic books constantly returning to a state of status quo. This united effort posed as S.H.I.E.L.D. in order to trick former West Coast Avenger Mockingbird to slip in and mess with the team's computers, which was the perfect distraction for the fake S.H.I.E.L.D. to come up and kidnap Vision. When the rest of the team busted in to save their buddy, they found the Vision completely dismantled, and Jesus, this is horrifying. Like, not only is that skull creepy as hell, but this is the team's friend and ally, not to mention Wanda's husband. The Avengers were able to collect all of the pieces and brought Vision back to their headquarters, where Hank Pym tried his best to put this synthetic man back together again. But it was a long process, and midway between the restructure, Vision didn't have his artificial skin and just straight up looked like the Terminator. Luckily, Hank was able to somewhat restore Vision to his former glory, but the problem though is that he was this pale, solid white figure without what could be considered his soul. You see, when building the Vision, Ultron used a digital copy of the brainwaves of the recently deceased Avenger, Wonder Man. Because comics. And this would be the basis of what made Vision, well, Vision. Over time, these brainwaves changed as the Vision gained life experience, which made him his own person separate from Wonder Man. But since then, Wonder Man had come back to life and was even on the same Avengers team as Vision. But even though it would help get him back on the right track towards being himself, Wonder Man refused to let Hank Pym make a copy of his brainwaves to implant into the Vision. I hope to God that made sense, because there is no real way to explain that in a concise manner that isn't just word vomit. But anyway, sure, Wonder Man said that it was because he was uncomfortable with how his brainwaves were used by Ultron without his consent, which I'm sure is at least partially true, but it is extremely obvious that the main reason he didn't do it was because he is in love with Wanda and didn't want the competition of her literal husband. Obviously, Scarlet Witch was pissed when she found out that Wonder Man refused to help restore her husband to his former self, but the two of them did eventually date, so I guess it worked out and Wonder Man was just playing the long game. So pay attention, kids. If you want your crush to go out with you, then just wait until her husband dies, and leave her in a state of grief and agony even when you possess the key to more or less bring him back to life. That's true love, baby. This new soulless version of the Vision was more of a machine than ever before. He had all of the memories of his past life, sure, but the emotions behind them were completely deleted. He had no feelings towards anything, including Wanda and his children. The latter wouldn't matter too much though, since it turns out that his kids were actually just fragments of the devil himself and were absorbed back into him, but that is a stupidly complicated topic that I already have a video dedicated to explaining, so watch that for more information. Between the trauma of losing her husband and children, along with the normal over-the-top stresses of being a superhero, Wanda went into a catatonic state. And finally taking Wanda's well-being into consideration, Wonder Man offered his brainwaves to the Vision. But to everyone's surprise, the dude said no. In addition to that, Vision decided to abandon his wife in favor of rejoining the main Avengers team on the East Coast. Finding his new emotionless spawn be lacking a long-term goal or objective, Vision sought out the help of an expert in artificial intelligence to help him out. The end result was the researcher implanting Vision with the brainwaves of his dead son, but he also hooked him up with a holographic image inducer so that he could walk amongst everyday folk with a human appearance in order to learn more about what humanity is all about. But although he had new brainwaves and the emergence of a personality, Vision was still pretty robotic, maintained his pure white form, and didn't really do much in the comics outside of just operating as an overlooked member of the Avengers. Eventually, Vision was captured by the Gatherers, a team of survivors from various destroyed universes that are led by a guy who is so mad that his girlfriend dumped him that he has devoted himself to killing every version of her throughout the multiverse. I have had some nasty breakups, but this dude just needs to chill out. Like, dude, lose yourself in some video games and pick up some weights. It's been helping me.
They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not.
One of the Gatherers is Anti-Vision, who is our Vision's multiversal counterpart who's still sporting the classic green and yellow design. And in order to infiltrate the Avengers, he swaps bodies with Vision. Now, this dude is a total creep and made it pretty obvious that he wasn't the Vision that everyone knows and tolerates. But his cover was blown when he tried to rape an Avenger named Crystal. Jesus Christ, 90s comics, can you not? Like, this serves no real purpose and is just edgy bullshit for the sake of being edgy bullshit. Thankfully, the Avengers were able to take down Anti-Vision before he could cause any harm, and they forced him to lead them to the rest of the Gatherers. Disappointed by his failure, Anti-Vision's leader destroyed him, which fully brings an end to the White Vision's body, and therefore, this video. So there you go. Everything that you would probably ever want to know about this era of the character's history. So I hope you enjoyed it. And if you like this video, then why not consider subscribing or even watching another one? And if you want to know more about Vision, then hey, I mentioned it in this video, but check out the episode that I did all about him and Wanda's demon babies. That's a bizarre storyline, so maybe give that a watch. But anyway, I hope you learned at least a little something new, and hopefully, I'll see you next time.